Hello and welcome to Techie Chap. Today I am going to be doing something completely different, and that is stepping into the world of BSD. Yep, I'm just taking a short journey away from Linux and I'm going to be trying out Ghost BSD. Let's find out how I got on. All right, here we go. This is Ghost BSD desktop. This is what you get put into, the default desktop environment that you get put into when you first install Ghost BSD. It's based on Mate desktop environment, which is a fork from GNOME 2 desktop environment. And so it's kind of a classical GNOME look and feel to it, but I quite like it. It's quite sharp and looks quite nice on my full HD screen, laptop screen. I'm running this on a HP 250 G5. I've wanted to try BSD for quite some time. I've either not had the availability to give it a good go, or I've just not had the hardware to really test it out. So I'm quite pleased and excited to be running this finally and to give this a go. Now, BSD is kind of like a cousin of Linux, I would say. They're both, Linux and BSD are both based off of Unix, so they do share some family traits. However, BSD is quite a different beast. BSD themselves describe BSD as an operating system, a complete operating system, which is a little bit different to the way Linux is developed with the various contributors to make it a whole piece. So yeah, BSD is kind of maintained and looked after by the BSD community, and yeah, I've been wanting to try this for quite some time. Let's have a look. So up here, we kind of have the classical GNOME 2 calendar. It works, and you can set different locations and dates and so on, and that will come up on there. You have your battery indicator. I'm pleased to say as well that that all the hardware detected okay. What I should say is that the microphone I plugged in to record this video, uh, I needed to restart Ghost BSD for it to detect. So some things don't auto detect when you plug them in, but they do tend to detect once you've restarted the operating system. I'm trying to come at this with a bit of more of a open mind than say I would do with reviewing a Linux distro, simply because I'm completely new to BSD, and yeah, I need to come at it with the view that this is a different operating system. It does things differently to the way I might expect them to, despite some of the similarities in the desktop environment. Okay, so carrying on, the Ethernet and the wireless card actually have detected properly as well. So that's nice to see. We have a very basic volume up and down as opposed to a volume mixer. We've got a microphone control here, which you can either turn off and on. I've got an external microphone plugged in, which is why that's showing as muted. And then I've added to the panel here this view of traffic going in and out, this kind of network monitor on here. And actually, if I just right click on that, click on about, it's something called Mate Net Speed, which is quite nice. And you can add different widgets to the top panel here. If I've got there by right clicking on the top panel there, and you've got all sorts of different little widgets that you can add on here. So that's quite nice. You've got a workspace switcher. You can add all sorts on here. So that's quite nice. Going over here on the top bar, we clicking on the nice G Ghost logo up there. We got our applications. So let's have a look and see what applications we have. We kind of got some fairly basic accessories. character map, Ngrappa archive manager, which is a kind of zip archive manager. We have Mate calculator, Mate font viewer, search tool, um, something for managing your passwords and keys. You have Plank, which kind of gives you a Mac-like dock if you want it. I'm going to stick with the GNOME 2 sort of look because I'm quite enjoying it on this particular review. You've got Pluma, which is a sort of text edit or notepad. Root terminal for jumping straight into the terminal as root. And then we have a little screenshot utility, which is quite nice. You can grab the whole desktop window, select an area. Yeah, that works quite nicely. If we go to graphics, again, fairly limited amount of applications here. You've got Eye of Mate image viewer, which I would guess is just for viewing images. You've got the Mate color selection, and then you've got Shotwell. Shotwell is for managing your photos. Then if we go down to internet, we have one choice of internet browser, which is Firefox, which is to be expected, and we have transmission for your BitTorrent. Office applications, again, very small amount of Office applications. I think this goes some way as to why the installation of Ghost BSD was so quick. It was only about 10 minutes to get this from USB onto the laptop. So I think it's probably really quite a small installation. But what we have here is Atril document viewer, which is for PDFs viewing or multi-page document viewing. Evolution for your email, and Mate dictionary. Going down to programming, we got some tools for KDE Qt5 development. Then down to sound and video, I've installed Kden Live and OBS Studio on here. They've installed fine. Then we've got Rhythmbox as your default music player, VLC media player, and Zine media player. We also have this sound app. So if we just click on that, so this is actually your sound preferences, and this is where you control your inputs and your outputs. So that's quite a nice utility. You can select what you're going to use for your inputs, and you can select what you're going to use for your outputs. So you can see I've got USB audio speaker plugged in, so I've got it set to USB audio. You can also change what applications are allowed to essentially notify or make noises and so on. So yeah, quite a nice little utility there. System tools. So under system tools, we find the file manager, which is something called Kaja or Kaja. I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced. It looks quite nice. It's fairly basic, I would say. If we just go into a folder here, we can see previews are enabled. You can actually play around with the previews in here. So if you click on Edit and Preferences, click on Preview, I've set it for files that are smaller than 1 gig, but by default, I think it's under 10 meg. It will do a preview. So that's quite nice. You can change that behavior. So if you've got a massive video file, for example, you might not necessarily want to keep seeing that preview if you're sort of trundling through the file browser. So that's quite nice. Whilst we're here in file management preferences, you've got the different view types here. You can change it to a tree view if you wanted to. You've got the behavior as well, a bit like KDE. So you can change the behavior to single click or double click. By default, it's set to double click. So that's all fairly nice. Icon captions, date format, list columns, preview, which we've already had a look at, media, so you can choose how media is handled. So for example, if you put a DVD in or you open up something with photos on, what should it do? So you can tell it what to do. So you can say, actually, I want Shotwell Photo Manager to automatically open, which is pretty nice. And then you got extensions as well. So you got I don't think you can do too much here on the extensions. Oh yeah, you can configure extensions on some of these. So that's Kaja or Kaja. I'll call it Kaja because that sounds better. System tools, deconf editor. We've got Fish, which is the shell environment. When you install, you get to choose your shell environment. I've chosen Fish just because it was the default. It's described as the friendly interactive shell, and you can get help if you want to by typing help, and that launches this nice introduction to the Fish shell, which launches extremely quickly in Firefox. But then I did have Firefox ready down here to show a couple of other pieces as well. We'll close that. System tools. Got a log file viewer as well, which is quite nice. It just tells you exactly what's going on in the system. It's quite nice. It's just there as well, so that's quite good. You've got the Mate disk usage analyzer, Mate system monitor, and that kind of tells you a little bit more information about your system as well. So we are running Ghost BSD release 22.04.22, which is based on the kernel FreeBSD 13.0 stable, and the Mate desktop environment is 1.26.0. If we look at the processes and resources, actually, we can see it's pretty low on CPU resources, bearing in mind that I'm currently recording this on OBS. So OBS is running, recording via the webcam, recording the desktop, and it's recording my microphone. And the CPU is only sort of hovering around, well, it's hovering under 30%. So that's pretty good. And memory usage is really quite low as well. So that's good to see. I'm using a ZFS file system, which again was one of the defaults on installation, kind of recommended version. So that's all nice. System tools, carrying on here, Mate terminal. So I'm not sure Mate terminal is any different to the Fish terminal or shell. Because it launches the same shell, so I'm not sure what the difference is or why it's there twice, but it's there. Power statistics, so you can get statistics on your power usage. Fairly self-explanatory. You've got places up here, which takes you quickly to places like your home, kind of like a shortcut bit where if you want to get to things quickly, you can quickly get there by going places, home folder, computer, and so on. You can also access your recent documents here, which is quite nice, and also access network devices or connect to a server. Right, here's the system, and underneath system we have preferences, we've got hardware, where basically we can look at the display, and we can see we're running at 1920 by 1080, 60 Hertz. You can do a little bit of scaling, 100% or 200%. So that's quite nice. You can also show monitors in the panel there. You got some mouse preferences, power management, time and date manager, so on. Internet and network just got a network proxy setting. Look and feel, if you have a look at that. Yeah, okay, so you can change the appearance. It's running it's running a sort of custom appearance at the moment. I'm not sure why that is. That's kind of how it came as default. But you've got vmix, vmix dark, vmix light. Pretty sure you can get more themes online. Yep. And I think because it's a fork of GNOME 2, you're better off sticking with GTK2 themes for your best sort of experience on this environment. But as you can see, there are plenty of themes available. I'm going to stick with this custom one. I'm quite enjoying the sharpness of it. Let's have a look at background, because we always look at the background wallpapers. Yeah, a fairly nice selection of wallpapers. That's quite nice. It's just they change instantly when you click on them, so that's quite cool. Nice lightning one there. That's a default one. A few lightning strikes. People like their lightning strikes on here. That's quite nice. Ooh, very nice dark forest one. Okay, so let's just pick this one. Seems to be a good mix. You also got style, zoom, colors, and you can also get more backgrounds online. So if you click on backgrounds here, I have to say, with Firefox at least minimized down here, it's pretty snappy. Okay, so so that's backgrounds. You can also change your fonts here as well. So you can choose the rendering of your fonts, whether you want the subpixel smooth. We might select that. I think that probably looks best. All right. Yeah, actually, it has made things, unless my glasses are different, it has made things look a lot better font-wise on here as well, which is quite nice. Okay, preferences. So that was look and feel. So you've got a few options here. You can set your screensaver. You've got something here called Station Tweak. What does that do? Okay, so this is a bit like the Finder preferences on Mac, where you can select what you want on your desktop by default. You can select the interface and you can select how the windows behave. Back to system, preferences, personal. So you've got about me, file management. What does that do? So you kind of get the default view and you basically get the Kaja file management preferences there. Let's have a look through here. Pop-up notifications. Okay, standard theme. You can choose different theme for pop-up notifications. Okay, that's all good. Right, administration. So, Software Station is the kind of software manager or app store, if you like, for Ghost BSD. And what I would say about this is it does take an awful long time to do this syncing with the repository. I have improved this, in fact, and I'll show you how I've improved that. But because when I first loaded this and I started installing applications, and this actually was one of the reasons for installing this net monitor up here, it was just taking forever to get into the software station. And so I had a look into it and I realized that essentially you can change where the repositories are, where it pulls the repositories from. And because this is all centrally managed, the repositories are all via Ghost BSD. So my closest location, being as I'm in England, is France actually. So I've changed my repository under the ghostbsd.conf to be pulling from France rather than the default. It didn't actually say what country it's pulling from in the default, but I've changed it to France, and that certainly has seemed to have improved matters somewhat. Right, back to Software Station, and you've got a ton of packages here. 31,145 packages are here, and here we have our applications. Applications in BSD are called ports. So I'm not sure why, but they are. But say, for example, I like to use Inkscape. Let's see if I can find Inkscape here. Oops. A little slow to type when using the software station. It might be good to have a look at System Tools and System Monitor to see what's going on. So we'll just keep that up and running up there. but it has pulled back Inkscape. We've got two Inkscapes here. I'm not entirely sure why, but we'll click on one of them and click apply. So it's a bit like Synaptic Package Manager in Linux, essentially. It's quite nice that it's got these categories here that you can explore, and there certainly are a lot of applications available here. As you've seen before, I have been able to install OBS and Kdenlive, so that's nice. Those applications are available under BSD, and Inkscape is another application that I use. So that's going to go off and install Inkscape, and we'll just see what's happening on the network. So it's gone off and pulled the Inkscape application. Hopefully it's going to pull a little bit more, but this is running a lot quicker than before. So before, when I was running off the default repositories, it took about half an hour to install an application, but once I'd modified the repositories to pull from a local location, it's an awful lot quicker. So that's now installed, in fact. So if I go up to applications here, sound and video, maybe it's under graphics. Yeah, graphics. There it is, Inkscape. Let's give it a go. Let's launch it. So that's launched quite quickly. I'm just going to stick with the default. Thanks. New document. Yeah, that's launched really quickly. Very quickly, in fact. Yeah, great. All right, we'll close that down. So, yeah, that works really quite well. If I just delete that, let's just see. This is going to be trying to look for something like Chrome on BSD is like a total anathema. It's like it's not something you really should be running on something as security conscious as BSD. But I just wanted to have a look really and see if there was anything like Chrome or another browser even that I can run on here. I'm sure there is. Chromium may well be available. It's odd that when I type the first few letters, I think it goes off to automatically search rather than allowing me to finish typing, which may be why it sort of seems to hang. Yes, that's what it's done. So typing in here there seems to be a little bug here where it runs really slowly. Okay, yeah, you can see Chromium is there. So you can download Chromium if you prefer the sort of Chrome type experience. So that's all fine. I'm not going to do that on BSD. I'm not going to do that to BSD. BSD prides itself on being really security conscious, and it certainly is, because it's all looked after by a single community. There's a lot less risk, BSD themselves would argue, than say running any other operating system, for example. Because it's all centrally managed, you've got less chance of third parties creating security holes in your operating system. That's what BSD say anyway, so I'm kind of just quoting them. So far so good, and actually since I've done the smooth font rendering, it looks a lot better as well. So I'm quite impressed with this, I have to say. So I'm going to keep playing with this. It's as I say, I'm recording this video on using OBS at the moment, and that's working perfectly fine. Hardware's working. This is all working fairly snappily. Let's just try and let's try something else. Let's try launching Kdenlive. Just bearing in mind that obviously I am recording this, and so it's having to cope with that as well. So let's look at the CPU whilst it's launching. Kdenlive took a bit longer than I would expect. to launch, but it has launched, so that is also good. Yeah, yeah. So I'm pretty impressed with this actually, and I I would like to give this a go, and maybe I'll set myself a challenge of trying to run it for a few weeks as well. But I am quite impressed with this. This seems to work really nicely, certainly for my needs. Um, Ghost BSD. Let's just have a look up here. So Ghost BSD, it's you can download it from the ghostbsd.org website. I'm using 22.01.12, which was released in January this year. I'm using the Mate edition 64-bit. I would recommend, if you are going to try BSD, if you can perhaps install it on a physical piece of tin as opposed to a virtual machine, you might find that it works a lot better. You also got the Ghost BSD community images as well, which is a XFCE desktop environment, so that might be worth a go as well. Yeah, Ghost BSD. I'm having a lot of fun with this, and so far so good. I'm quite impressed. So I think that's the end of my review. I think that's where I've got to so far. I'm impressed. It works. It functions well. And if you fancy giving BSD a go, I would suggest Ghost BSD as a starter. Um, it certainly is useful for me as a complete newbie to BSD environments. As I understand it, this is described as the Linux Mint of BSD, and I think that's fairly suitable, a fairly suitable description for it. It's easy to get into, easy to use. It comes as a good desktop environment that's familiar to Linux users, and also would be familiar to some Mac users as well. I think it's worth a go. So if you fancy something different, give Ghost BSD a try. All right, so if you've enjoyed this review and you'd like to see more reviews, then please click on like and subscribe. If you want to see me having a go at other BSD releases, then please add your comments down below. I'd love to see them. Otherwise, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.